Did you know that one of NATO's highest military commanders is always an American general? Apparently, this has been the case since 1950, despite no existence of any requirement for the position to be held by a US military member. And so, let's take a look at why exactly this is the case for today's video. The position that we're talking about is SACEUR, which is short for Supreme Allied Commander Europe. As a NATO webpage explains, SACEUR is one of NATO's two strategic commanders and is at the head of Allied command operations. SACEUR is responsible to NATO's highest military authority, the Military Committee, for the conduct of all NATO military operations. The SACEUR, also referred to as the Supreme Commander, makes recommendations to NATO's political and military authorities on any military matter that may affect his ability to carry out his responsibilities. In the case of an aggression against a NATO member state, SACEUR is responsible for executing all military measures within his capability and authority to preserve or restore the security of alliance territory. It's a position where the individual changes approximately every 2 to 3 years, though NATO states that there is no strictly set term length. Historically, terms have ranged from as little as 1 to as many as 8 years. So while the organization's top international civil servant is its Secretary General, a civilian, SACEUR is among the top military leaders of the alliance, and it's this position that appears to be traditionally held by an American general. The rationale for this tradition is laid out quite plainly in a NATO webpage which states, "Even since 1950, when the post of SACEUR becomes vacant, the North Atlantic Council asks the President of the United States to nominate an American officer to fill the post. Unlike 1950, however, no specific individual is recommended." This is a little confusing for us, considering numerous media reports in 2025 that US President Donald Trump nominated Air Force Lieutenant General Alexis Grunkowicz as SACEUR on June 5th of that year. That does indeed sound like the nomination of a specific individual, doesn't it? It's possible that some media outlets simply exchanged the word appointed with nominated, but we won't dig too deep on this discrepancy. It's also entirely possible that after the first year, 1950, the North Atlantic Council no longer had someone specific that they recommended to the President of the United States to be nominated. We're not entirely sure, though, because it's not very clear on the website. Whatever the case, it looks like the President's pick must be confirmed by the US Senate and approved by NATO, adding a few layers of approval. But with all of that background out of the way, why exactly does SACEUR need to be an American officer? After all, the decision on which nation should fill the post lies with the North Atlantic Council, and thus could be changed by the Council. Well, the tradition of having this post filled by a US officer remains strong due to the following reasons as explained by NATO itself. 1. The United States remains the strongest military power within the alliance. 2. Having an American officer in charge of the alliance's military operations symbolizes the continuing commitment of the United States to the defense of Europe and reassures those European nations concerned about potential threats to their security. And 3. Nuclear weapons remain the ultimate weapon of deterrence for the alliance, and because the bulk of these weapons come from the United States, it is important to have an American officer in command. Now, point number 2 may be up for debate these days, but the explanation is clear. Having this position staffed by an American general is a way to keep the United States engaged and connected to European security. It's explained that the pick for other high-ranking positions is purposely non-American to balance things out. For example, until recently, the second Supreme Commander post in the alliance, that of the Supreme Allied Commander Transformation, or SACT, was also held by an American officer. However, since 2009, SACT has been a French general. The aforementioned Secretary General, the top civilian, is by tradition always a European, while the chairman of the Military Committee, with the exception of the first in 1949, is always either a European or a Canadian. So, there you go, an explanation taken directly from NATO itself as to why one of its top military commanders is always an American by tradition. Did you know about the position of Supreme Allied Commander Europe and the tradition of this always being an American? Let us know by leaving a comment.